This week, I am going to show you how I edit Twilight exteriors. Alright, I did not film any behind the scenes of this particular edit because I didn't think I was going to make a video at the time. However, I just posted a photo in the groups, one of the Twilight for Real Estate photography group on Facebook, and somebody said that I should make a video on how I do editing, so I thought I'd make one. However, at the time, I didn't photograph any or film any behind the scenes. With that said, you guys, I'll just get right to the point. Here's the video. It's a little longer, but if you want to see the way I do it, have at it. My method is no different than some others you may find. I'm not doing anything magical. Take a look. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you at the end of this edit to wrap up this video. All right, so I'm going to show you how I edited this Twilight shot. Right now I am aligning all the images. I had this up on a 12-foot light stand, and I think there was maybe a little bit of breeze, so I just want to make sure everything's aligned. I'm starting with 16 images, and the method that I use is pretty much what Mike Kelly taught in, I believe, the first Where Art Meets Architecture video. It's essentially light painting. I use the actually for this shoot I was using the Lowell GL1 to you can kind of see me over here in the corner light painting with it. Occasionally I'll use my flash. However, I've been having some Wi-Fi issues with my camera. I actually have it sent in right now for repair, and so I've just been using the GL1, which I actually love using. It just isn't as powerful of a light as a flash is. So with that said, again, I have 16 images. All of these are, for the most part, little fragments of or portions of the home that I lit up using the GL1, and you kind of see them as I flip through here. And that's pretty much what we have. So what I always do is I start off with an ambient layer. And by the way, other people use this method too. I originally learned it from Mike Kelly several years ago. And when I do Twilights, this is what I tend to use as my method. I occasionally I've done single exposure. I don't like the look of them when I do them. Other people are able to pull them off. I just can't. So this is the method I use. And let's just get started here. So what I would normally do, I guess, if I was doing this how I used to do it, I would go through and I'd label all of the sections here. I'm not going to go through and do all that. So I'm just gonna kind of light it up as I go. So what I do is I keep my base. This is my base exposure here. I keep this at the bottom. I don't have any additional supplemental lighting in here, so I'll keep this at the very bottom, and then I'll just start slowly turning on layers. So we'll start at the top here, and I'll see what's lit up, and I can see this section here is lit up. So cool trick I learned actually from Matthew Stallone, who does basically the same method. What I used to do is I would just add a mask, and then I would just hit B to turn the mask on. To turn the brush on. I would put it on white. I put it to about 20-30%, and then I just start painting it back in. I'm gonna bring my hardness down. And I'll start painting back in. That is fine, but he actually did a cool thing that I hadn't thought of before. So what he does is he'll actually take the lasso tool, and he'll basically highlight the area that he wants to paint in, and then he'll add his mask. Oops. And then you can just brush out the edges. I think he puts his in lighten mode as well in terms of the blend mode, but I don't personally like doing that, so I'm not going to. Now this didn't actually have any light on it in person, so I'm actually going to bring the opacity down because I don't want to light that up too much, just a little bit to kind of suggest it. I also don't like that the light is right here on the lawn, so I'm going to paint that back out. So very subtle. You can kind of see what it's done. All right, so we're going to go on to the next layer. I'm going to turn that one off, go back to here. I can see it's this background that's turned on, so I'm going to go to the lasso here, and I'm going to select the area that is lit up. Add a mask here. And again, paint out those edges that I don't want. For the most part, it's fine. I don't really need to do anything, so I'm actually just going to keep it as is. And again, I think he switches his to lighten mode, which is fine. Here's normal. Here's lighten. So you can kind of see, it does, I guess it is a little different. I usually just keep mine on normal though, but it looks like normal gives you kind of a more orangish, whereas like the lighten seems to just do more filling. So maybe I'll just try the lighten mode. Actually, no, I'm gonna stick to what I know. I'm just gonna do normal. This is what I always usually do. So we'll keep it at normal. We'll keep it on normal. I'm gonna bring the opacity down slightly because I don't want it to be too bright just yet. And then we'll go to the next layer. And it looks like this I just lit up behind the bushes here. So it's just a really small area. Lasso tool, it's a shortcut for that. That is L. Okay, so I'll just remember that. All right, so just highlight kind of over here. Add a mask. And turn that off. Back on. And you guys can see this isn't complicated. It's actually really simple. Go to the next layer, and I was lighting up the top of these bushes. So same thing, I'll hit L for my lasso tool, which I just learned. Look at me. By the way, if you ever want to know what a shortcut is, all I gotta do is just hold the mouse over the tool for a second. It'll usually tell you. Go ahead and add that there. Brush. Good enough for now. I'll turn that off. Go to this next layer. What do we have? This was me lighting this part of the tree here. You can kind of see me over there with my Lowell. For those of you wondering what I was shooting at, I believe these were all 2-second exposures. I don't remember the actual, I don't remember the other details right now. Brush out the edges here. Okay. This one, I lit up the stump of the tree. I just thought that looked really neat. So we'll lasso that in. And again, I have my feather or my hardness all the way to 0, just so I can kind of lightly blend in the edges. And I still have my brush down at about 30%, just to FYI. All right, so now we've got this entry area lit up. And I did have this lit up in one of the former shots. I believe in this shot I was ducking behind the bush here and lighting that up. Go ahead and brush that in. Okay, and remember I have this, what shot is it? It's this one here where I have it lit up a little bit, so I'm probably going to run into something there I'll have to deal with when I get there. This is just the bush here with the lasso tool. And you don't really need all these details. I just wanted to add a little bit more lighting on this one. Sometimes it looks good, sometimes it doesn't, and there's sometimes where I don't even end up using those layers, but it's nice to have them just in case. I'm going to bring the opacity down on this one because I don't want it to be super bright. All right, now we've got the left side of the house, so I will L for lasso tool. You notice I'm bringing it kind of further back away from the actual thing itself. That way I can brush in a little bit. So I'm actually bump this up to 50. Get that little shadow on the roof there. And bring the opacity down a little bit. It's a little too orangey. All right. Now we've got the middle of the home. So hopefully you guys are gathering now. This is not super complicated, and once you do a lot of these, you're relatively quick. Now here you'll notice I accidentally went over the roof line. I actually want to fill that in, so I'm going to hold down plus and just draw my lasso tool, and it'll add that area for me. In case you guys didn't know that trick, I don't know if you call it a trick, but all right. So add my mask here. Go and blend those out. Now, the reason I keep on turning the layers off is because I just want to be focused on the section that I'm working on. When I'm all done, I'll turn them all on and actually really like that part because it, and it's funny because in Matthew Stallone's, in his workshop they did with Rich Baum on Twilights, the webinar that they did on shooting spaces, he said that's the same reason he turns them all on at the same time, is just because it's kind of like a little reveal. It's nice. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. I lit up this side of the bush here, so we'll go ahead and lasso that. Now, what I'll probably find is once I turn all these on, there's going to be some lights that are just a little too much, and I'll probably want to bring them back a little bit. So the problem is when you have all the layers turned on, it's kind of hard to see that sometimes. So this is just kind of a way to get past that little thing. Or see them all when you see them all on, or if you see them all on as you're editing, you get confused and you don't know which layer has the. I shouldn't be talking and working at the same time. I'm no good at it. But when you have all the layers on, it's sometimes hard to see which layer you're dealing with. See, like that was way too orange. I definitely don't want that. Okay, and then it looks like we've got one more layer, and I think I already had one where I used this, so I'll probably not end up needing this. Let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did, so we'll just lasso this anyway, and we'll see if we need it. Alright, so again, this is our base layer, and there's actually one layer I forgot to bring in, and that was an overexposed layer, where this is the house is evenly exposed, and I'll explain that later. So I'm going to go ahead and start turning these on, and you'll see why I kind of wait till the last minute. 1, 2. Okay, so if you can't tell, if I was going through and editing all this at once, it'd be really hard to see where my mistakes are. And I can tell that I've got some things I need to go through and touch up here. Okay, so we're going to do that now. So this is the benefit of labeling things. And since I didn't label these, I don't get to reap the rewards of doing that. I don't know which layer these are on, so I have to go through them individually and do that. Now, I'm automatically seeing that I don't want to have this on. These should not be lit up. There's no light source for these, so I'm just going to delete that layer. I'm not going to use it. Let's see here. This layer, I actually don't need it. But it does light up that tree a little bit. So what I'm going to do... Actually, no, it doesn't. This layer doesn't serve any purpose. I'm going to keep it off. I'm actually going to mark it as a red, just to remind me not to use that one. But I might want to use it later. I don't know yet. I'm going to keep this layer because it does add a little bit of light down there. I don't know if it's going to be useful in a few minutes here, but we'll find out. I do see some lines kind of showing up here, so I'm going to brush those out. Okay. We'll keep that. I'm actually going to mark it green. Alright, so there's the layer with all the lines. I need to brush these lines out. I'll zoom in a little bit. What else do we have? Any other trouble areas? It's casting a little shadow right here, so I'm going to brush that out. And you just keep on turning on and off and find out what is it about this that you don't like, that you want to fix. And eventually you'll get there. I want to brush these out a little bit because those should not be as lit up. This one technically shouldn't be as lit up either, but I'll get to that. So yeah, I marked these green when I'm done with them, or when I've done the edits that I need. All right, this one is obviously a problem child, so we're going to start brushing out these shadows here. Okay, that one seems to be done. Okay, this one I'm going to bring the opacity down. It's just a little too bright. I only want a little bit of light hitting it. In fact, let's see what lighten mode does. Lighten mode doesn't really do what I want it to, but that's fine. We'll bring it down a little bit. And let's see. Does it create any problems for me? Yes, this bush here does not need to be lit up. Oops, I am on. Okay, sometimes I do that. I forgot to click on the actual mask. I was brushing out the image itself. What we find there? I think so. I think I'm still... Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush this out instead of bringing the opacity down. Let's bring this down to 20. The opacity makes it a little muddy looking, so I'm just going to slightly brush it out a little bit, just so it's subtly lit. I don't want it, you know, totally lit. We're good on this one. Whoops. All right. Obviously, the problem areas in this are pretty noticeable right off the bat. So let's start brushing these shadows out. Bring it back up to 50. There we go. What else do we got here? Alright, so this is maybe a little bit too bright. I'm going to bring it down just a hair. Fills in just what I need it. I think we're good so far, so I'll mark that as green. This bush, okay, the question is it too lit up? I don't personally think so. So we'll be able to tell later in the final whether or not we think it's too lit. I'm going to bring the opacity down even more though, just in case. Mark that as green. Okay, left side of the house. A lot of this is also going to make sense when you add the sky. You know, you might go back and make some additional edits. All right, so we got to brush some stuff out of here. And actually, maybe I'll keep that in a little bit because it looks like it's helping me with that shadow up there. Let's see. I think we're good. All right, what is this? I have no idea what I was lighting up here. It doesn't seem to serve a purpose though. So I'm going to keep it off for now. I don't think we need it, so I'm going to mark this as red. Now, if you're asking why I deleted that one layer and I'm keeping these red, it's because I don't know for sure that I won't ever use these. So I deleted if I know I'm never going to use these. These I keep red if I made the decision as of now to not use them. So it's just kind of a reminder. All right. What do we have here? I feel like this is a little too lit up. Bring the opacity down just a bit. I want there to be a little bit of, you know, contrast there. So... or dimension rather. Okay, so something's starting to bother me a little bit. It looks a little gray in these corners, so we're gonna figure out what we did. I think I just brushed out a little bit too much of that color. So I'm just gonna brush it back in. That looks better. And again, you guys, hopefully what I'm doing here is making sense. I know it's you know what, maybe this is what the purpose of that. Let's take a look. Nope. Still can't figure out the purpose of this layer. Okay. It's a little gray right here. I missed this spot. Not a big deal. I don't think it's going to be super noticeable. And, okay, so I guess I didn't light that corner up earlier, so this layer does serve a purpose. Okay, this part of the bush doesn't necessarily need, whoops. this part of the bush doesn't necessarily need to be lit up, so we're gonna do that, and I think we are done for the most part. So again, if we go back to, this is the base layer. We'll turn these layers off because we don't need them. And actually what I'll do is I'll group these just to get them out of the way. Oops. We don't need those. All right, so, oops. All right, so original layer. There's my Twilight shot. Now, I'm going to show you what I used to do for a sky replacement. I'm going to do Command Option Shift E. That will flatten everything and give me this layer. And so this is the final. What I would normally do, this is what I used to do for sky replacements, okay? And it works perfectly. And, well, it works decently, okay? I shouldn't say perfectly, but it gets the job done, okay? So what I do is I just create a duplicate layer. I've got my sky library over here, and I'll find a decent one. I know the sun was over here somewhere. So I'm going to find a sky that reflects that. I think we've got this one right here. So I'm going to hold down Option. I'm going to drag this sky from my library and drag it between these layers. Okay? And you're not going to see anything just yet. So when I click on Layer Copy 1, I'm going to go down to the FX panel. I'm going to hit Blending Options. And I'm going to select the option for, so down here it says Blend If. You select blue. And you can just drag this slider on, and you can see it basically, you can find the sweet spot, but what it'll do is it'll pretty much get anything that, if you've got a layer of blue or any blue hues under this layer, it will blend the whites with that color. And that's essentially what it's doing. So you can see if you zoom in, it does a pretty decent job with, in between leaves. It's not as good as Seamless, but it does a pretty decent job, as you can tell. Okay, it's not perfect, but it gets the job done for real estate for the most part. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hit OK. Now this is the weird part that I'm sure is not smart to do, but I do it anyway. What I do is I go down to my, well, first of all, let's mask this out. So we need to switch to the lasso tool. And we got to get rid of the color that went into the scene that basically covered any of the whites. So usually that's in the roof here, roof lines, or whatever you call those things. Okay, and then I'm just going to add a mask and invert it. And be done with it. There's my sky replacement. However, what I would do to make sure I got these like little gaps here, I'd actually bring the opacity down to, I don't know, 60-ish, 63, just to the point to where I can start seeing those twigs. And obviously the sky lightens up, right? Again, people are going to think this is dumb. This is what I've done for sky replacements for the longest time until I started using Seamless. I'd go to Hue and Saturation, and then I just bump the saturation up and bring that color back in. It's not perfect, but again, it did exactly what I needed to, and that's how I've always done my sky replacements. If we zoom in, you can kind of see that for the most part, and obviously there was some wind happening, so there's a little bit of a breeze there, but it's not too bad. It does what I need it to, and it worked for me for a while. Okay, but now I'm going to show you how I'd use Seamless. Okay, so my Photoshop actually crashed, of course. Luckily, part of it was recovered, so I'm going through and I'm redoing all this. But I noticed what that one layer was for, and it was this light behind the trees. So I just wanted to show you that really quick, that it wasn't useless after all. This was the layer I originally turned off, and when I zoom in, it lights up behind the trees. So I'm going to keep it in there. I just wanted to show you that really quick. Also, I discovered where the problem was, where this part of the house turned to gray. It was in this layer. It was in this layer here. So I fixed that. So just want to give you an update. I'm going to pause this, finish editing, and then I'll be back with Seamless. One other thing that I forgot to do, because I was too busy yapping away, So I forgot to actually move the sky when I put it in. So what I normally do is I make sure that the horizon is level with the actual horizon. So when I bring my horizon up and I bring it back down, this is about where the horizon would be, therefore that's where the sunset would be. So actually this is what my sky replacement would look like. Oops. Let's bring that back there. Yeah, so this is what my sky replacement would more look like this. And it doesn't really match the sky all that well, so I'm actually going to bring it down because I don't want this blown out sun here. This is a little more realistic to what the sky actually looked like in terms of colors. The sun was over there, and I think that looks fine. I already masked the layer, so I'm just going to copy this mask and actually just hold down Option and drag it up, and that will mask. That will just drag the mask up. So I can delete this old layer. That's that. Now I'm going to show you seamless. All right. So we're going to, actually what I'll do is I'll merge these layers. This will be old sky replacement method. That way we can come back and revisit that later. Now here's how you use Seamless for those of you who aren't using it. Seamless is an action that Hunter L created, and it's pretty easy. I'm still trying to kind of learn it. I just recently started using it, but I don't want to flatten any of these. So he gives an option to do a sky replacement without flattening everything. So all you really do is you just follow the instructions. You go over the action that you want to do. You hit play. Command. Oh, perfect. There we go. I had to be on a layer that was actually visible. You hit merge visible. It gives you some suggestions on what to do next. I'll hit stop. And it basically just said do the magic wand tool. Make sure that contiguous is selected. Uncheck anti-alias. Make sure this is selected. What will happen is when you click on this, it'll select all the areas within, and actually, what did I do wrong here? There we go. You're actually supposed to uncheck contiguous, and when you check that, when you uncheck it, it will select all of the areas in there, okay? So we did that. I've got everything selected I want. I'm going to actually go to my lasso tool, hold down Option to take away some of the colors that I don't want to deal with, or whatever. Like it highlighted some things within the scene, so I'm going to just go like this and take those out. So now we're just dealing with the sky. And I'm just going to hit play again. Okay, and this is the Refine Edge brush tool. So this looks kind of weird. Hunter suggests going to the on black, I guess, view mode here. You can also come in here just to kind of see what it's doing. And it actually looks pretty good. I probably won't have to do anything. But what you can do is go into this on black mode, and you can just kind of scan around and see if anything just doesn't look like it's filled in very well. So what you'll do is you just hit R. That'll bring you to the Refine Edge or whatever it's called, and you can kind of just paint around areas you think might not be. I mean, this actually looks pretty good, so I don't actually need to do this, I don't think. My Photoshop's running a little slow because my computer. I just need a new computer. Here's a good example. Like over here, there's right in this area, there's some. This could be a little better. So all you do is you just brush over it, and it will. All the default settings should work just fine for you. And you're just kind of searching for little spots like that. I don't really see any others that stand out, so I'll probably just work with this. Maybe a little in here, but not really. Right there, maybe a little bit. Everything else looks pretty good, though, for the most part. It did a good job of picking it right off the bat. There's a little spot right there I might want to brush up a little. And on the instructions, Hunter actually says take your time with this part. So I listened to the guy. I could have just done it as it was, and it probably would have been fine. But we might as well. I mean, while we're in here, we might as well just make it the best we can, right? Okay, there's some spots here. See, I'm glad we zoomed in and looked at it. Otherwise, I just would have overlooked all this stuff. And again, you probably wouldn't have noticed, but I mean, we're in here. Let's just make it as good as we can. I know I just said that. I'm just repeating myself now. All right, I think we're good. I'm gonna hit OK. Now it says to select the sky to overlay. So then you just drag your sky where you want it. Again, I don't want it to be too high because I don't want all that to necessarily show up. And then you just hit enter to place it. It'll create these other layers in a second here for the sky. And that's pretty much it. When we zoom in, you can see it's actually perfect. Significantly better than my old method, and I don't have to bring the opacity down. So if you're not using Seamless, definitely worth checking out. I am not an affiliate. It's just a good tool. Hunter made it for our community, so you should definitely check it out, support him. I think it's like $30, but again, well worth it. And that's pretty much it, you guys. That's how I do a sky replacement. Now I'm just going to do the finishing touches. I'm going to let's see here. We'll just do this. Command. This is the final layer. Okay, so I'll show you the difference. Now this is the one we did with Hunter's sky replacement. Here's my old sky replacement method. So you can see, in all actuality, at first glance, you can't tell a difference color-wise. In fact, it looks like my old sky replacement method, I mean, the color is just as good, in my opinion. Now, if we zoom in, this is where we notice the difference. This is Hunter's. This is mine. See the difference? Hopefully you can. That's why, again, my old method was fine. This method is 100 times better. So, with that said, you guys, I hope that that was helpful. Let me just flatten this up quick, and I'll show you how I wrap these images up. I will duplicate this, and I'm going to straighten this up here. I'm actually going to probably zoom in a bit here. If you're wondering what camera I use, I actually shot this on my A7R II because my A7 III is in the shop. I messed the SD card compartment up somehow. All right, and then you just go into skew and you just straighten up the verticals. I just eyeball it, to be honest with you. I mean, I think Mike Kelly does this method. He actually brings the guides in to make sure they look straight, and you can do that. They all look pretty straight to me. Again, I kind of eyeball it usually. This could probably come over a little bit more. So just for fun, we'll stretch this over a little bit more. And that's fine. I'm not going to go any further into it. And that's it, you guys. That's how I do a Twilight shoot. This is pretty much it. I think contrast-wise, it looks decent. I'm not going to, some people might say you want to add a little bit more contrast. I don't think I'm going to. Also, actually, you know what? There was one thing I forgot to do. Let me go back here. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm happy with this image. I think I'm just going to keep it as is. You can go and add, if you want to add some curves to it and just give it a little bit more contrast, you certainly can. It's a nice little S-curve. Never hurt anybody. I don't like a ton of contrast. I want it to look somewhat realistic. So I'm not going to really add a lot. So I'll do that subtle. It's just a subtle little bump. Let's see. Original, current. I don't know. I kind of like the original better. Oops. I guess it's not too bad. It really is darkening up down here though, so I'm just gonna actually brush a little bit of that back in. Go down to 30. I don't want it to be so dark. I'm happy with that. I think I'm going to perhaps bring it in just a little bit more. And scale it a little bit. And this is just a taste. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. I like the way this looks, so I'm just going to settle for this one. And there is my final Twilight shot. I'll perhaps add a little bit of sharpening to this. The way I do sharpening is actually I have an action set up, but I do a high pass filter. And it essentially looks like this. It's probably going to look a little too sharp. I actually like that. Not bad. Okay, and that's pretty much it, you guys. All right, you guys, hopefully that was helpful one way or another. Again, I'm not really doing anything different than other people, but everybody likes to see how other people edit. Hopefully you got something from it. Hopefully it was helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you guys haven't yet, please subscribe. It'll really help me out. I'm trying to get to at least 1,000 subscribers. Yeah, that's all I really have for this week. Let me know if you have any questions. We'll see you next week with a brand new episode.